Hello, Helen here. Welcome to my channel. Today's card's a little bit different than the sort of cards I've been doing lately. I'm just going to do a stamped background and just a little flower stamped and coloured onto a sentiment, so it's not going to have all the painting and things that I usually do this time. I have two sheets of this wine or burgundy coloured card. I'm going to make my card base out of one of the sheets and use the other for stamping. I've got this MFT background stamp called Roses All Over, and I'm going to stamp that on the piece of card and then cut that out and put that on the front of my card. I'm going to just emboss it with gold embossing powder and just keep it very simple. These bigger background stamps are far easier if you put the stamp on the table and then put your card on top. So that's what I'm going to do. So just going to ink it with Versamark sticky ink, and then the thing you've got to be really careful is when you put the cardboard down onto it, you've got to make sure that you don't move it, otherwise you're going to get a smudged image. So just keep one hand on it at all times and just make sure you press down, rub over the back of the cardboard, and then carefully take it off the top. I'll do that step first with the embossing, so I'll put some Ranger Gold embossing powder onto that and then set it with my heat tool, and then I'll go back and do the last little bit on the other side of what I've just stamped. It's not going to match, but I've got a way of disguising that, so I'll just stamp it so that I can see more of the pattern poking out at the other end of the card. You'll see what I mean in a minute. So doing the last little bit of stamping, I'm just trying to get it roughly in the area where it is. If I overlap it at all, I'll brush off any of the embossing powder. I just like it to be roughly in the area where I'm going to cut the front panel of the card, but it doesn't have to match because I'm going to cover that up. So I'll also emboss that, and that'll be ready. I'm going to use the top of the fold line of my card base to trim the first cut of the stamped part. And then I'll hold that at the top and draw around the rest of the card and trim that, and that should fit my front panel. The other way to do it is to stick just the top of it onto your card base and then flip it over and trim it using the card base as your guide. But I did it this way this time and it worked out fine. Now I've got some double-sided tape on my card base ready, but before I stick the card panel down, I'm going to disguise that bad match up with the stamping. So I'm going to cut a strip of the wine-coloured card that's going to cover it, and I want it to be round about 1/3 of the card wide, but you can just eyeball it. You don't have to be too precise with that. So I'll trim that and then I'll fold it over the front of the panel and stick it on the back. I left it floating to start with, but it kept annoying me how it was bowing as much as it was, so I ended up putting some double-sided tape underneath and sticking it down a little bit firmer than that than I show here. I'm now going to cut out a stitch circle that I'm going to put a sentiment on that's going to sit on that strip that I've stuck around the card panel. So I'm wanting it to be just slightly overhanging the strip that I've done, so I work out which die I'm going to do and then I'll cut that out just out of a scrap piece of card. I'm also going to stamp a flower that's I'm just going to have to the side of the sentiment, sort of overhanging the strip and the circle and onto the card. So I'm just going to stamp one of these Persian motif flowers from the set by Elton Yu, and I'm going to stamp that with clear ink and gold emboss it just the same as I have the background, so it ties in together, and then I'll colour it and fussy cut it out. But while I'm stamping the flower, I might as well be stamping the sentiment onto my stitch circle as well. So I'm just trying to decide which of the happy birthdays out of this birthday greetings set I'm going to use. It's another Elton Yu stamp set, a very handy stamp set I might add. So I think I've decided which one I'm going to use, so I'll stamp that with VersaFine Onyx black ink and clear emboss it, and then I'll go ahead and do the stamping of the flowers with both on the MISTI. To do the Persian motif flower, I'm going to use this Bristol Strathmore smooth watercolour paper. Excuse me. I think that's the best paper I've found to use with the Zig Real Colour markers that I'm going to do the colouring in with. It just blends beautifully. So I've just got a little scrap piece here, so I'll cut a small piece off of that and stamp the flower onto that. Now I'm not going to go into great detail with the colouring of this. I've done it before on videos, so just check back on some of my earlier videos using the same method. But what I do is I do a little bit of colour into the base of the petal of the darkest shade. I usually work with 3 shades, medium shade next, and then with the lighter shade I go from the outside, the very top of the petal, and work my way down and just blend into the mid colour, in this case pink, so that I'm not, and I have a paper towel so that I'm brushing off the brush and cleaning it all the time, so that otherwise you end up with quite a dark petal. So you need to keep the light as light as possible and then just blend it where the 2 colours cross over. I hope that makes sense. It's not very fancy colouring, and these pens blend beautifully, so it's not hard to do the blending. Now I apologise that now that I'm playing back the video I can see that it's quite hard to see what I'm doing. I should have zoomed in so that you could see a little bit clearer, so I apologise for that. But you will see when I came to finish the flower, the pinks that I'd chosen, this set that I've got doesn't have a lot of pinks in it. It wasn't the right colour pinks, it was too bright really for the colour card that I'd picked. So what I ended up doing was I went back, I found a dark red and I went back and just touched up red over the hottest of the pinks that I'd picked, and then used the lightest pen to blend that on top of the colouring that I'd already done, and it seemed to tone down that brightness of the pink really well and match the colour card much better. Now I'm not going to bore you with me doing the fussy cutting out of the flower. I'm a very slow cutter, so I've sped the film right up, and I've chopped bits out just so that you didn't get bored. So fussy cut the flower out. So this is where I discovered that the pink didn't really suit the coloured card, so this is where I'm trying to fix the colour by putting a darker red over the hot pink and blending that with the lightest pen, and that seemed to work much better. So I've put some craft foam on the back of the stitch circle with a sentiment on it, and I'll stick that down onto the strip that I've got on the card, and then I'll stick the flower down. I'll put some Scotch foam tape on half the flower that's going to overhang, and the rest will be just glued onto the sentiment circle. So that's pretty much the card finished today. I hope this has encouraged you to maybe go back through your older stamps and see whether there's some way of using them in a different way like this. Sometimes you don't have to do a lot of colour, just something like gold on a darker colour is just lovely. I hope you come back again. Please hit the like if you like the video. Subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell if you'd like to be told when there's another video coming up. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.